I'm Dana Lackey from the Living History Farm at Roper Mountain Science Center, and I want to talk to you about some cash crops that were historically very important to South Carolina. I have here indigo, I also have cotton, of course the Carolina gold rice was another important cash crop for South Carolina, and I'd like to demonstrate how to dye with indigo. This is an indigo plant here, and indigo dye comes from the indigo plant. And what you would do is to take the leaves off of the plant, put them down in water, and essentially let them decompose. So a lot of people would think that indigo dye, this blue dye, these blue colors that you see here, these different shades, would think that it would come from blue flowers or blueberries, but there's nothing blue on this plant. It comes from the leaves decomposing. Now I have indigo dye mixed up in this jar, and I mix it up from a powdered form, which would be a common way to keep your indigo for a long time. And then I put something in it to take the oxygen out. It's called reducing the dye. I put some thiox in there. And when that happened, this dye went from a very dark blue to a green color. And I'm gonna prove that it's green in just a second. When I put this in, you will see that the cloth is gonna be green, and while you're watching, it's gonna change over to blue. So let me get this wet. This is just a bucket of water here. And I like to start with my cloth wet because it sinks down into the dye quickly, and it doesn't just float on the top. So put this down in, and you'll be able to see that green color in the dye. So I said I reduced the dye. I took the oxygen out. And what that does is it makes the dye permanent on the fabric. If we didn't take this step, it would wash right out. So that's been in there long enough. I'm gonna pull it out, and we're gonna see the magic of indigo here. So we'll let it drip over here to the side just a minute. You can see that this is already starting to change. Now when I straighten this out, the parts of the fabric that are folded up on themselves, they're going to still be a little bit green. Let's see what we have under there. All right. Okay. Now the white part right there, and on the other side too, it's a little more evident. So some of that was folded up inside the dye, and then if you've ever done tie-dye, then that's a similar situation where you're having some of the fabric not exposed to the dye. As you can see, it is starting to turn blue. And so there's the magic of indigo happening as the oxygen in the air interacts with the indigo molecule, then it changes it from green to blue, and now it's permanent. Now over here, I have a branch of cotton from one of our cotton plants, and we picked this in the fall off of the plant. This is a cotton boll, B-O-L-L. And when you are picking cotton, you would pull the fiber out of the cotton boll and leave this on the plant. This is the part of the plant that is sticky, it's pointed, it's sometimes fairly sharp, and that can mess up your hand. So if you're picking cotton all day long, weeks and weeks at a time, that's the part that would get your fingers. Now this is very soft, it's very fluffy, but there is something inside that has to be taken out before we can use it, and that would be the seeds. And so in order to be able to use this to spin on a spinning wheel long ago, or to weave on a loom, you have to get all of the fiber off of the seeds. So let me see if I can get this. This is just one seed. You can imagine if you were picking 50 to 75 pounds a day, which would be average for a child, and how long that might take you to clean those seeds out. Now, you may not know this, but you are not allowed to grow cotton if you don't have a permit, and that is because of a certain insect called a boll weevil. So if that's of interest to you, you might want to do a little bit more research about that. But the boll weevil is very destructive to a cotton crop. All right, let's pan back over and have a look at our indigo cloth here. You can see that it has turned entirely blue wherever the dye touched on the fabric. I can dip this back in to get these areas covered on a second dip, but this is now permanent on the fabric. If you have a chance to come out and visit us here at Roper Mountain Science Center, please be sure to come down to the Living History Farm. We have a lot more to show you out here.